Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to the second installment of the Sauce on the Side Fantasy Series. And on the second installment, we will talk nothing but running backs. We will talk about the guys that you can rely on every single week. Your death taxes, Ezekiel Elliott type players. Guys that you can play every single week without batting an eye. We will talk about the second tier running backs, guys that we have question marks on, your third tier guys, and we will even talk about the late round steals, the guys we won't touch, and the sleepers. We have it all for you today. As always, my name's Drake. I'm your host, joined by the producer, Mr. Leighton Pip Shaventone.
With 2 shows in, going strong.
And our guest host for the Sauce on the Side Fantasy Series, Mr. Lex Meatstud Glasgow.
Alvin and the Chipmunks, baby. Let's go.
So, Mr. Glasgow, you hit it off hot and heavy. Death, taxes, and Alvin Kamara. Guys, last year he was 7th in snaps at the running back position, but he was 4th in total points, and he sat out week 16, not because of injury, which is something we always have to watch with running backs. Guys, he had 300 less snaps than Christian McCaffrey, 233 less snaps than Saquon Barkley, 139 less snaps than Saquon. He's going as the 3rd overall pick. If you have, this is what people want. This is what people listen for. If you have the 1st overall pick in your draft, you take Alvin Kamara. Latavius Murray will be a non-factor. All he's going to do is just get chunk yardage just here and there. It's not going to be a split system with him and Mark Ingram. I expect Alvin Kamara's snap total to jump exponentially this year. I am all aboard Alvin Kamara as the number 1 running back across the board.
I agree with that 1,000%. Death, taxes, Christian McCaffrey. Last season, 1,000 rushing yards, nearly 1,000 receiving yards as well. Had 107 catches last season, led all running backs. He is a touch monster, and he's jacked now. Cam Newton, hurt. I don't even throw at minicamp yet, so this ball going in Christian McCaffrey's hands. Rivera said that he would not limit his touches at all, so Christian McCaffrey, full go.
I am all on board Christian McCaffrey as well. Guys, last season, a lot of people don't look at this kind of 8th in receptions last year, 10th in carries. Everybody was just concerned on would he be able to be the every down guy. He is absolutely an every down back.
Guys, death, taxes, and hitting the Quan, baby. Saquon Barkley, last year had 91 catches. This year, the entire Giants wide receiver core hurt or gone. OBJ's gone. Sterling Shepard's out. Evan Ingram's a liability. You know, they're just going to force feed him. You know, remember a couple years ago, David Johnson, Arizona? Every play, this seemed like David Johnson, 5 yards. Look for it this year, you know. Saquon touched the ball. You know, he's going to touch it close to 300 times. He's just your guy to bet on every week. He's going to get you 25 points every single week. You cannot draft Saquon Barkley in the top 2 picks.
This is why this segment was introduced, my friends. Death, taxes, and Ezekiel Elliott. Over his career, he averages 131 total yards per game. 80 rush yards in 32 of the 40 games that he has suited up for. He has a touchdown in 23 of the 40 games he has suited up for, and he has at least 17 touches in 38 of the 40 games he has suited up for. 17 touches in 38 of his career 40 games. Guys, every single weekend, all signs point through Zeke. Do not be worried that they will not have a contract done. I know that Jerry Jones has came out and said he doesn't need a rushing leader to win a Super Bowl. That's a lie. Jerry Jones has had a team win a Super Bowl 3 times. Every single year he's had the rushing leader on his team. Ezekiel Elliott is the man. They have to get him back in there. They are not going to rely on Tony Pollard, who last year was the backup running back to my man Darrell Henderson, which I will talk ad nauseum about later. They will get a deal done. Do not fear. Zeke is here.
My last guy, and this is contract pending, Melvin Gordon. Absolute touch monster. As a running back, he's a very good talent. When calling truly elite talent, but from fantasy standpoint, he's truly elite. Last week, he had 2 weeks with fewer than 15 fantasy points. More games above 20 than fewer than 15. Absolute fantasy god if he's on the team.
Yes, you can lock him in for 250 carries, 50 receptions every single year, contract pending.
You know, another guy, death taxes, David Johnson. He's coming off the second year of his ACL injury. We all know that's when guys start to become themselves again. The Cardinals have a rookie quarterback. What is the best thing for a rookie quarterback? A seasoned vet behind him at running back. David Johnson was that guy in 2016 who just, every week was insane. It was 26, 27 fantasy points every single week. This year, he might not be as good as he was in 2016, but look for him to score 20 points every week. He might have, back to that 350 touches like he did a couple years ago, too.
I'm all on board David Johnson, especially if you look now that they are wanting to run the read option with Kyler Murray. Something that I always point to is that running backs have better success in the NFL whenever they're getting a read option handoff. Look at Gus Edwards, how he automatically became fantasy relevant, and also look at the season that Alfred Morris put together with RG3 running a read option. Alfred Morris had 1,600 yards, 13 touchdowns in that option offense. The only difference, David Johnson has that 70-plus catch upside. Guys, so out of these running backs that we have talked about, these are your death taxes every week, guys. Which guy do you have as your running back one?
Alvin Kamara.
I've got Saquon.
I had a feeling you were going to say that, and I'm going to tell you why history tells me no. You ready?
Tell me why.
I researched back all the way back to 2001 whenever fantasy football began as a thing. All the way back to 2001. There has only been one running back ever, which is a mind-blowing stat. Whenever you're picking running backs, think about this. There has only been one running back ever to be the running back one on the fantasy football season who has come from a losing team. And that team was 7-8-1, and it was David Johnson in 2016. That's pretty crazy to think about.
It's pretty crazy to think about.
Because the Giants will not win 7 games.
No,
Giants might
bad team.
be lucky to win 5.
So that's this. There was a lot of 8-8 teams. The Cardinals were 7-8. But there has never been a running back to be on a team that has a worse record than 7-8-1 be the running back one for the whole entire season. It's wild. So now we're going to go to the second tier, guys that have just a possible little question mark that's stopping them from being running back one.
So my top guy, top question mark in the league is Le'Veon Bell. Everybody knows he sat out all last season going to a new system where he is not guaranteed 3 touches a game. If people love Adam Gase, I'm a big fan of Adam Gase. I know Bell is still a very good talent. Just how much rust he's going to have on him. And not just the rust, how well will he perform when he doesn't get 30 touches a game.
I absolutely agree with you. And also to play on that note, Le'Veon Bell has only had 2 career 100-yard games with less than 20 carries. So that bolsters your bell cow argument. And Le'Veon Bell has not had a rush over 30 yards since 2016.
So he had all in 2017. He was probably the best year of his career.
0 20-yard runs in that season. And something to look at, he only has a 4.3 career yards per carry mark, which is tied with Lamar Miller, which blows my mind. And you can only be patient as a running back if the offensive line keeps the defense off of you for at least 3 seconds. So, something to look at.
Something else to kind of watch, guys. I'm kind of on the fence right here with Todd Gurley. Is he going to be healthy or not? That degenerative knee disease is a big thing, and he is only 24 years old. That's nuts. For him to have that kind of condition at that young is crazy. But when he's on the field, he can be the top overall running back in all of fantasy football. That system is insane. That system's designed for him not to get touched, until 6 yards down the field. When he gets past that 6-yard mark, he's hard to bring down too. He's a big bat. He's running through holes the size of the fucking Grand Canyon over here. That offensive line was the most improved, probably the unit in all of football last year, the way they were able to protect, at the beginning of the season and block for him. If he's healthy, he can be a top 3 running back this year.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. You look at what he did last year. Guys, he was still the running back one, and he missed 2 games. Obviously wasn't healthy because he only had 23 carries in Week 13 and 14. And do you think that they would have sat there and watched the Saints beat them in the NFC Championship, only giving Todd Gurley 4 carries if he was healthy? Absolutely not. If you draft Todd Gurley, which he will have to go in the top 3 rounds of your draft, probably top 2, if you draft Todd Gurley, you have to overdraft Darrell Henderson. You have to take him because if Todd Gurley starts having a nagging injury, Darrell Henderson's going to be the guy that you have to play.
Well, the next guy is Dalvin Cook. O-line's ass. His health is ass. But if you watch the film, you watch the games, you don't have to be a genius about of talent to realize Dalvin Cook is really talented. As a rookie, he always had as a rookie he had 1,500 total yards last season. He tore his hamstring out for a long time. This seems to be back healthy. Dalvin Cook, huge question mark.
I am not on board with Dalvin Cook being a second-tier running back, and here's why. He's going in the third round of drafts. Last year, whenever he was healthy, he didn't even see 20 carries in any games, and he's only had 6 touchdowns total in his career. The Giants, I don't really think that their offensive line is going to be any better, which is why I didn't say anything about Kirk Cousins being an upper echelon quarterback. Last year, he played in 11 games. He had 4 games where he had less than 3 yards per carry.
Yeah, no, the O-line is terrible.
It is that bad. Dalvin Cook's
terrible.
phenomenal.
Like,
if Dalvin Cook was on the Saints, sign me up. Even if he's splitting time with Alvin Kamara, sign me up. But that offensive line is just so bad.
No, that offensive line is atrocious.
Do you guys have any more Tier 2 guys?
There's a couple guys that could be on the fence. You look at Joe Mixon. He could definitely be on the fence there. Nick Chubb.
Yeah, James Conner.
James Conner. We all know how Pittsburgh running backs do. They produce all season long in fantasy.
Yeah, Tier 2 or Tier 3, obviously, I think James Conner's right there. Joe Mixon, go back to the whole stat where, running backs on bad teams rarely produce at a high level. Mm-hmm. Now, if they were a serviceable team, Joe Mixon on any other team would be good, but I'm just not buying into it. Leonard Fournette, he's another guy that you can make an argument for. I don't think that I could take Leonard Fournette. He's going in the third round of drafts.
Yeah.
He has a career like 3.7 yard per carry, and he's going in the top 3 rounds of draft. Any guys that's kind of on the outside looking in that you guys just want to talk about?
I heard about Damian Williams in Kansas City right now. Because
he's
had a corner legs, he's been practicing. Andy Reid said last week it could be a committee with Carlos Hyde and who else they have? I think Kendrick West or whoever it is.
The best running back on the team?
Yeah, I like Damian Williams, but I'm not going to take him in probably the top 4 or 5 rounds just because of that committee factor there and the fact that it is Damian Williams.
Yeah, I agree. I see Nick Chubb is going in the 4th round. Nick Chubb will 100% be on every single team that makes the postseason in your fantasy league, but they're going to make the postseason but not win the championship because they're not going to handcuff him with Kareem Hunt, which you absolutely have to do.
I think you absolutely have to do, but you look at what Nick Chubb did last year after he took over the starting role. He averaged 20 touches a game and over 100 yards.
Oh yeah,
you want that on your roster.
He's phenomenal,
and you can just sit there and you hope that by the time Kareem Hunt does get to come back, that he has that job so solidified that it's not even a factor.
Yeah, and if you had Nick Chubb, it won't be hard to get Kareem Hunt because it is so hard to just waste a roster spot on your team for 6 weeks.
Absolutely.
You get to draft him, let's say, go to 2 rounds, how do you want to take him? He'll probably be dropped because of injury or something else happening. Because that's 8 games. Maybe week 9 before he comes onto the field. It's so hard for the team to keep a spot like that for 9 weeks.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And here's another thing. James Conner, he's going in the 2nd round of drafts. Last year, he was held below 66 rush yards in 8 games. The other 5 were over 100. He's a guy that could have been on our quarterback's good times, bad times list. I'm a little concerned that they're not going to use him as a workhorse back. I think Mike Tomlin learned how things unraveled at the end of the last season because James Conner wasn't on the field for this team. I think they're going to use Benny Snell a lot more. I think they're going to use Jalen Samuels a lot more. They've actually talked a lot about Jalen Samuels and how much they like him. And Benny Snell, there's a reason why they drafted him to take some of those carries away from James Conner. I think James Conner is going to be really, really good this year, but he's going to be at a more efficient look in the offense instead of just the bell cow who we're going to hand the ball off to 30 times in 3 separate games.
I think something else that hurts, James Conner this year too. Antonio Brown's gone. You think Big Ben's on the downward slide there. He's going to be facing more of a stacked box this year when they know he's going to be getting the ball.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Anyway, you guys would take Leonard Fournette in the first 4 rounds of your draft.
No.
It'd be hard pressed too. I'd have to really need a running back, and he'd be the only one left.
I do not want to draft a running back that has a history of foot injuries.
And not really a desire to play, it seems like.
Yes.
At times.
Yeah, I absolutely agree there. So, guys, we're going to get to the portion where we're going to talk about steals. Do you see any players that are going in the latter part of a draft that you're just sitting there scratching your head? Why in the hell isn't this guy going higher? I'll start us off. Chris Carson. Guys, this guy's going in the 7th round. This Seahawks team was 4-1 in games that he got 20 carries or more. This is not a Bill O'Brien with Deshaun Watson situation. We're talking about a legitimately good head coach in the NFL. And you look at what they have around him. Yes, they do have Rashad Penny, which is a guy that if you take Chris Carson and you're scared he's going to take his job, just draft him later. If you draft well, you can take the handcuffs to these players later in the draft. And Mike Davis, I don't know why, but he stole 80 carries away from Chris Carson last year, who is a 1,000-yard guy in games that Chris Carson was healthy. So Mike Davis is out of the situation. I think that it opens up a lot more for Chris Carson, who could potentially have a better season than what he had last year, and that is well above that 7th-round grade. If you're worried about Rashad Penny, take him late.
One guy I like is Tevin Coleman. He's currently going in the 5th or 6th round in that range. With Kyle Shanahan, he was right behind Devontae Freeman as the lead back there in Atlanta. The reason why Kyle Shanahan signed Tevin Coleman, okay, he liked him in the system. That's how he works. Tevin Coleman, I think, had a really big year with San Francisco. Only fear is Cisco has like 5 running backs right now.
Well, I'm not even worried about the running backs because you look at Tevin Coleman last year, he averaged 4.8 yards per carry, and the running backs that are on the San Francisco 49ers roster now, they're not very good. And you look at what they had with the carousel running backs. They had Breida, Alfred Morris at times, Jeff Wilson, Raheem Mostert. Not good running backs, and they were still 12th in the NFL in yards per attempt just because Kyle Shanahan's so good at finding those run lanes for guys to be able to go through. I am all aboard Tevin Coleman, and he's going late.
Shanahan brought him in for a reason, too. He knows the system. He's been there. He's been a part of that system.
He's played for Shanahan.
Yeah, he's played for Shanahan. He's been there in that Super Bowl when they went a couple years ago. He knows that system well. He knows how to work it. He knows his responsibilities there. That's the reason they brought him there.
Absolutely.
And the guy I think that's going as the 21st is shown right here, the 21st quarterback taking a draft, Sony Michel. Tom Brady's getting old. Okay, they figured out the formula last year on how to win games with an aging quarterback. Run the ball. They drafted him in the 1st round. Okay, you're not going to draft a running back in the 1st round if you're not going to expect him to be that guy for you moving forward. He's kind of got a little injury history to him too. But last year he had some big games. Where they get on the goal line, you know what they're going to do.
Absolutely.
They're going to turn around, give him the ball, say go score, and he has shown that he can do that. I would take him. 5th, 6th round. If he falls in your lap there, you've got to take him, I believe.
One guy that also is going in the 7th round like Chris Carson is Philip Lindsay. Guys, people are talking about how they're nervous about a timeshare with Royce Freeman. Give me the last Oregon running back that's really taken stuff away from anybody outside of LeGarrette Blount, who stole 50-something touchdowns over his career. Philip Lindsay was in a timeshare last year with Royce Freeman and still had 1,000 yards. Did you realize, so this is something I'm going to have to ask, did you guys realize that the carry amount between Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman was only 60 carries?
Well.
Yeah. Philip Lindsay only had 192 carries compared to Royce Freeman's 130. So the timeshare was a real thing last year, and Devontae Booker actually had more receptions than Philip Lindsay. I feel like at this point they have to realize that Philip Lindsay is by far the best back on that team, and even if he is in a timeshare, guys, Philip Lindsay was still producing as a running back 2 last year, and in a lot of weeks a running back 1. So I am all on board with Philip Lindsay. If you see him sitting there in the 6th round, you have to take a guy like him who's going to get you 1,000 yards in limited work, and if they end up expanding his role to letting him catch passes and run the ball more and be a 3-down back, you have a guy sitting there who is a legitimate running back 1.
I'm going to talk about Tariq Cohen. He's going in the 7th round right now. A guy I liked a lot last year. Last season he had 1,000 total yards. They brought a guy in that they aren't going to move. Probably a little bit from Drake. But he likes him a lot. But there's no reason why he shouldn't have the same role in the offense as actually with Jordan Howard next to him. People are afraid to be less involved. Why? There's no reason why he shouldn't have the exact same role in the offense. He might get fewer catches because actually Jordan Howard couldn't catch a damn thing. But he actually will have a humongous part in that offense and go in the 7th or 8th round.
No, I agree with Tariq Cohen being a guy that you might take later in the rounds. But I am scared about David Montgomery if you are a Tariq Cohen believer there. He is the guy you don't want. You didn't want the Bears to draft a guy like that if you're a big Tariq Cohen guy.
Yes.
He can catch the ball. He can run the ball. You know, I watched him all the time. I'm a big Texas fan. Watch him at Iowa State all the time. He can do. He's a do-it-all back. I think, David Montgomery, honestly, he could sneak up to the, top 15 running backs by the end of the season.
I absolutely agree with that. Another steal that I actually have is Devontae Freeman going in round 4. This makes absolutely no sense to me now that Tevin Coleman is gone. He's a legitimate running back, top 10 running back if he's healthy. Guys, every season that he's played at least 14 games, he has 1,100 total yards and 8 touchdowns. Now it's going to be his show with Tevin Coleman being gone. I know people are a little worried about Ito Smith, but he's not nearly as good as what Tevin Coleman is. He's going right now as the 14th running back taken. If you get him at the 14th running back in your draft, if you drafted well in the first few rounds, you're probably going to win your league. Sign me up for Devontae Freeman any day in that 4th round. He's going to be flirting with a running back 1.
One guy that's going way too high right now is Mark Ingram. He's going ahead of Chris Carson, ahead of Michelle, ahead of Phillips, ahead of Tevin Coleman. Last year, Gus Edwards was super efficient running the football for them. He got a ball at the end of the season. Yeah, he brought Mark Ingram. He will start, but I can see him giving up some carries to Gus Edwards, especially if the Ravens run the ball as much as they want to run the football.
I think a guy that is going to be in a lot of playoff teams this year, Aaron Jones. They finally
absolutely
they give him the ball finally, like I believe they're going to do. Mike LaFleur came out and said, we don't want to put all the pressure on Aaron Rodgers anymore. We want to give him a running attack. Aaron Rodgers is getting a little older. That's that's a fact. Aaron Jones, he led the league in yards per carry last year. Every time he touches the ball, you think he's going to take off, break off a 10, 15-yard run. He is an excellent back. He can catch the ball too. I think he's a guy that can really win you your league this year.
Aaron Jones has averaged 5.5 yards per carry in his rookie season and his second season. And from weeks 5 to 11, he averaged 100 all-purpose yards and 8 touchdowns in a 7-game sample size. That is a running back 1. That's 16 fantasy points per game. Aaron Jones going in the 6th round is laughable. If you can get him in the 5th, you will have a steal with Aaron Jones. One guy that I want to talk about is Kerryon Johnson going in round 5. Are we really scared of C.J. Anderson? The guy played on 3 separate teams last year, and the only reason he was good was because he was running behind the St. Louis or the L.A. Rams offensive line, who late and see could go out there any given week and put up $120 on somebody. I'm all aboard with Kerryon Johnson. He had 2 100-yard games last season, averaged 5.4 yards per carry, never got 20 carries in a game, and he still had 200-yard games. 85 yards per game total offense that this guy had produced last season. LeGarrette Blount isn't there to vulture 5 touchdowns like he did a season ago, and for some reason they kept running LeGarrette Blount, who had 38 more carries than Kerryon Johnson, with 223 less rushing yards. So it's not like that offensive line is absolutely, abysmal, because Kerryon Johnson was still able to find holes. If Kerryon Johnson gets the lion's share, which I would project that he does, 5th round grade on Kerryon Johnson is phenomenal.
I want to build off what you just said there, Drake. After the bye week is when we really need to start judging rookies, because that's when they finally find their role in the team system. After the bye week, he averaged over 100 all-purpose yards and 15.5 fantasy points per game. Why would you not want that on your roster?
No, you have to, especially in the 5th round.
Yes, in the 5th round, and I think they want to run the ball. I think Detroit wants to run the ball first. Matt Stafford's never really had a fucking running game.
Never.
Give him a running game, see what he can do.
Yep.
I think he's going to be there this year. Kerryon Johnson, definitely 5th round or later for sure.
All right, guys, so let's go ahead and talk about the deep sleepers, guys going in rounds 10 or later that you could potentially get and look up at the end of the season and say, hey, I got myself a top 15 back late in the draft. What do you have for us, Leighton C?
Another guy I like Devin Singletary. He's going 11th or 12th round, and Buffalo is a rookie. LaShawn McCoy's about toast. Frank Gore eventually is going to be toast. Though Singletary won't be week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Later in the season, on when Buffalo finally decided to throw in the towel showdown to week 1, because I'll give him carries. I think he'll be a very efficient back.
Frank Gore does not age. Late round sleeper. I'm kind of like Lamar Miller this year. He's going to 29th overall running back.
That's wild.
That is wild. He's going to touch the ball. He might be getting up there in age, but Bill O'Brien has made it clear in the past, I want to run the fucker, and I want to run the fucker. He's going to run the ball. He's going to touch the ball every bit of 220 times or more. He's going to flirt with 1,000 yards. Lamar Miller is always that guy. You don't know if he's going to get 1,000 yards, but he's always going to flirt with it. I think he's going way too late. He's a guy that you can stream week to week. He's got a favorable matchup. He can go out there and get you 100 yards. I think you need to take him in the later rounds.
Yes. Kind of two guys that you have to absolutely watch late rounds, and I really don't have to tell you why. Darrell Henderson. Obviously, you have to handcuff him with Todd Gurley. And then Kareem Hunt. If you are a Nick Chubb guy and you take him, you have to get Kareem Hunt. Take him in the 11th round. If you get Nick Chubb, take him in the 11th round. Don't be scared to go out and, put your neck out there just to make sure that you have a full running back by the time the playoffs come around. But as far as deep sleeper, I really like Kenyon Drake round 9. I think that's kind of obvious. There's no telling what they're going to do with the Dolphins. Every other week I see, Kenyon Drake's looking great. Kalen Ballage, he's looking great. There's no telling what they're going to do. Last year they had Frank Gore, who's legitimately a guy that you can turn around and hand the ball off to every single time and get 4 yards. So that's why I feel like they were comfortable railroading Kenyon Drake out of that every down back set. But now Frank Gore's not there. They don't have a guy that they can turn around and hand it off. It's basically going to be whose hand gets hottest, fastest, and I think Kenyon Drake is the lead guy there with the Dolphins. So 9th round, sign me up for that.
I'll give you two guys just together. They're going in a similar round, similar style, similar situation. Deion Lewis in Tennessee and Duke Johnson Jr. in Houston. Both basically just the pass catching back in PPR formats. They're both going to get in the teens. Basically going to pick the right weeks. Maybe 14, 15 points if you have to have it. 5 picks.
Other guy I kind of look at, Darius Geis. The Redskins took him in the 2nd round last year. He was hurt towards ACL. He might not be that guy at the beginning of the year with Adrian Peterson there, coming off that injury. We kind of need to let him get healthy a little bit. But I think by the end of this year, he's going to be that guy in Washington. He was a monster at LSU. They drafted him for a reason because they know he can be a bell cow back. I think he can be that guy by the end of the season. I think you need to take him, kind of stash him on your roster, later round, 10th, 12th round because you don't know what's going to be there. But I think definitely you need to look into him.
One guy that you absolutely have to stash, Darwin Thompson. He's the guy in the backfield that Leighton C. was talking about earlier in Kansas City that will emerge as the top running back. Very, very similar to what they had with Kareem Hunt coming out of college. A guy who is absolutely efficient, catching and rushing the ball, even though he didn't have a ton of usage. He averaged over 7 yards per carry at Utah State and 15 yards per catch on 23 receptions. Andy Reid loves to abuse these guys who came out of college, who didn't get a ton of volume, but they had a ton of efficiency. And I feel like come week 6, maybe earlier, Darwin Thompson is going to be the guy to own in the Kansas City backfield. You can take him basically with your last pick of the draft because nobody's going to be on him. Do it earlier than later because come week 6, people are going to start taking notice that this is the guy who's going to emerge as the top dog.
This one's a major question mark. Will he ever figure it out? I don't know, but he's super talented. Ronald Jones Jr., Tampa Bay. Doesn't look that great for a preseason game, but I love this kid. He's super athletic, super talented. Problem is, Peyton Barber might be better at running back than he is. But if he's going to get a chance this season, he had one chance to show it. Hopefully he does.
I was waiting on Leighton to say Ronald Jones.
Oh, dude, every single time we talk about running back sleepers, Leighton C., sign me up. Dude, Ronald Jones Jr.
What's about wide receivers? How about Funchess again?
Yeah. I can kind of see that, Bruce Arians coming in, we know he likes to run the ball too. There's no secret there. Ronald Jones, Peyton Barber. If you're honest with yourself here, who do you think really is the better running back?
Peyton Barber.
Peyton Barber probably is a better running back, so he's probably going to get the touches, Leighton.
Peyton Barber was on the field more than every other running back last year except for 4 or 5 guys.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to
But
throw
he
a guy.
sucked, so
I want to
mix
throw a
it
guy
up.
on the table here. Jordan Howard. What do we think this year?
I'm not going to touch him because Philadelphia loves their running backs.
They have like 6 of
They
them.
have several.
They have 6.
This kid, Miles Sanders, from all reports, the starter right now in camp, getting all our first team reps. But then you got Jordan Howard there, who's also really good. So because they have 2 good running backs, I don't want to touch either of them.
I'm going to tell you one guy real quick while we're on Jordan Howard train. David Montgomery.
We're waiting for it. We're waiting half an hour for this to come.
Yes.
29th running back right now. He is being drafted as the 29th running back. I don't find 28 guys in the league that are going to see more volume than this guy. Don't be scared of Tariq Cohen. Last year, Jordan Howard still had 250 rushing attempts last year. I don't think people realize that just because he averaged 3.7 yards per carry. Guys, he was still finished as a top 20 running back last year. Jordan Howard did. Jordan Howard had 250 carries, averaged 3.7 yards per carry, and still managed to be a top 20 option. David Montgomery will not be worse than 3.7 yards per carry. I can promise you that. I am all aboard. He has the one-cut ability that not necessarily Jordan Howard had. He was more of the downhill guy. There's a reason they traded Jordan Howard. There's a reason why they traded up in the draft to get David Montgomery. I'm all aboard.
How do you feel about Derrick Henry? We know he got hot for 4 weeks last year? 3 or 4 weeks, probably won people some
There's
leagues.
a reason why he wasn't mentioned. And I think it's because he is in a spot right now to be drafted in like the 2nd, 3rd round. And I don't think that he's going to produce like that. Now, don't get me wrong. I think you're going to be able to pick your weeks where Derrick Henry just seems to care more than other guys on the field and happens to have, 2 touchdowns, maybe gets himself 100 yards, but I don't look at him as even in the top 3 tier of running backs that I can guarantee are going to get me 1,000 yards on a season.
So, okay, I want to throw another guy out there. Marlon Mack. He's going as the 17th overall running back right now.
I liked Marlon Mack a lot. Then they signed Dante Foreman. I don't necessarily love that. I think Marlon Mack's good. I think he's still the best running back in the building. But I could see the Colts, who seem to have been a smart team over the last 2-3 years, really mixing things up and making it a full-time committee.
I think it's going to be a committee. I think you need to stay away from Marlon Mack. Definitely not at where he's going.
I loved him before they went ahead and signed Dante Foreman.
Before they signed him, even still then, you kind of were worried, when is Nyheim Hines going to run for a touchdown? You're going to be watching the game. You're going to look out there.
And Jordan Wilkins catching every ball in sight.
No. I think you need to kind of stay away from Marlon Mack where he's going. If he falls into your lap, 4th, 5th round, you got to take him there.
Yes. Any other running backs that you guys want to discuss?
What about Josh Jacobs?
Oh, yeah, we talked about Josh Jacobs at all.
Not touching him. There's a reason why I didn't mention him.
No, I don't think we touch him either.
He's going to go way too high for what he is. He's a guy that's coming out of Alabama who's basically done. We've seen this before. I think I read off his stat. He had 5.3 yards per carry at Alabama on over 100 touches. There's been like 7 guys in the last 4 years do the same exact thing. And realistically, when has Alabama produced that high-level running back that you can trust in fantasy every single week?
Mm-hmm.
Mark Ingram, like 4 years into the NFL. That's it.
Yeah, I'm not touching him.
Any other running backs?
You can go all covered.
I think I've talked about every single one that I was really willing to talk about.
We talked about Fournette. I think we talked about everybody that needed to be hit.
Yeah. And on that note, for Drake, for Leighton, and Lex, Dippers, as always, stay saucy.